The year is 1881. You are a historian, one of the first scholars ever granted access to the Vatican Apostolic Archive. For centuries, its contents were a complete mystery. Now, two massive doors are creaking open just for you, revealing 53 miles of shelves, holding 1,200 years of secrets. You came expecting forbidden gospels, proof of alien contact, the missing years of Christ. You pull a heavy dust-covered tome from a high shelf. You blow the dust away and open it to find a 14th century ledger detailing grain shipments to a monastery in France. The greatest secret of the archives is that the conspiracies aren't in the paperwork. The Roman Catholic Church is one of the oldest, largest, and wealthiest institutions on Earth. For 2 millennia, it's been a global entity that has shaped empires and guided the lives of billions.
So for conspiracy theorists, it's not just another powerful player in the world. It's in a category of its own.
It's the final boss, the one who owns the whole game board, not just a piece on it.
And that idea went supernova in 2003 with Dan Brown's novel, The Da Vinci Code. It was so influential, despite being fiction, that the Vatican appointed an official cardinal just to publicly debunk its claims about the church suppressing the bloodline of Jesus.
Hold on. They assigned a cardinal to fight a novelist. That's like the Pentagon deploying a 4-star general to argue with Tom Clancy on the internet.
Exactly. It shows how seriously they took it, because that book mainstreamed the core belief of this entire rabbit hole, that everything connects back to the Vatican.
Right. The Illuminati, the Freemasons, the aliens, the big banks. They're all just different departments in the same shadowy, Pope-themed multinational corporation.
And that's where the real story begins. The kernel of truth for all these theories is the Vatican's genuine history of secrecy. Until Pope Leo XIII opened the archives to scholars in 1881, the entire collection was a complete black box.
So for most of modern history, you couldn't get in. That alone is going to fuel centuries of speculation about what they were hiding.
If you keep your basement locked for 200 years, people aren't going to assume you're just organizing old tax returns. They're going to assume you've got a dragon down there.
The name itself adds to the mystique, the Archivum Secretum. But it's a mistranslation. In this context, the Latin secretum doesn't mean secret as in clandestine. It just means private.
A convenient mistranslation, though. The Vatican's private files sounds like boring paperwork. The secret archives sounds like it holds the location of the Holy Grail.
It's the difference between your public Twitter feed and your DMs. One is for show. The other is where the real secrets are.
And the sheer scale of the archives makes them a perfect conspiracy generator. We're talking about 53 linear miles of shelving. No single person on Earth knows everything that's in there.
Which creates infinite gaps for the imagination to fill. You can't prove the archives don't contain a specific document if no one can ever finish reading the whole collection.
53 miles. I lose my car keys in a 1-bedroom apartment. That's not a library. It's a black hole made of paper.
But many of these foundational Vatican control theories didn't even start with people speculating about the archives. They began in the 18th and 19th centuries as political attacks from anti-Catholic movements.
So it was less about hidden knowledge and more about political power.
Exactly. Groups like the Jesuits were portrayed as a sinister foreign army of the Pope, seeking to secretly undermine national governments from within. It was a classic enemy among us narrative.
So the original conspiracy wasn't that the Vatican was hiding aliens, but that they were just too good at bureaucracy.
And that paranoia was perfectly weaponized in the 1890s by a French hoaxer named L. Taxiel. He spent 12 years publishing incredibly popular exposés, complete with lurid details, about satanic rituals and Freemasonry being secretly directed by the Vatican.
And people bought it?
They ate it up, and then at the height of his fame, Taxiel held a press conference and announced he'd invented the entire thing from scratch, just to prove how gullible both anti-Catholics and the church could be.
Wait. Wait, so the entire continent of Europe has not a conspiracist, has the godfather of the internet.
Okay, let's get into the big claims. First up, the murder of Pope John Paul. He died in September 1978, only 33 days into his papacy. Theorists are convinced he was poisoned.
Poisoned for what? What's the alleged motive?
The claim is he was about to clean up the Vatican Bank, or worse, expose a list of powerful Freemasons hiding within the church hierarchy.
33 days? I've had leftovers in my fridge for longer than that. That's not a papacy, that's a temp job.
The evidence fueling this is all circumstantial, but it's potent. The Vatican gave conflicting reports about who found the body and when, and crucially, they had him embalmed within 24 hours, without performing an autopsy.
Hold on. Embalming him that quickly without an autopsy was a direct violation of Italian law at the time. That's not just suspicious, that's actively obstructing any potential investigation.
It's like something out of a detective show. Rule 1 of not getting caught: destroy the evidence before anyone even knows there was a crime.
Claim number 2. The Vatican secretly controls the Illuminati.
Which is deeply ironic because the historical Bavarian Illuminati, founded in 1776, was explicitly anti-clerical. Their entire purpose was to oppose the Church's influence on society and government.
So the conspiracy is that they're being controlled by their sworn enemy. That's like finding out PETA is secretly run by a coalition of butcher shops. It doesn't track.
Next, the third secret of Fatima. This theory claims that the real secret, revealed by an apparition of the Virgin Mary in 1917, was a terrifying prophecy about nuclear war or a great apostasy within the Church itself.
And the version the Vatican released in the year 2000 was less dramatic.
Much less. It was interpreted as a prediction of the assassination attempt against Pope John Paul II. Believers insist the real world-ending secret is still locked away.
So God's mom gives you a message about the end of the world, and you file it under miscellaneous, bad form.
Then there is the chronovisor. This story, which first appeared in an Italian newspaper in 1972, claims Vatican scientists secretly built a time viewer.
A time machine, of course. And what's the proof?
The main evidence ever offered was a supposed photograph of Christ's face taken by the device. But that photo was quickly exposed as a modified copy of a carving made by a 20th century sculptor.
Ouch. So the big reveal from your top secret time machine was a knockoff of a modern postcard? That's just embarrassing.
Okay, but where the conspiracy theories get real traction is with Claim 5. The Vatican Bank is the center of a global financial conspiracy. And this one is bolstered by real documented scandals.
Most famously, its involvement with the fraudulent collapse of Banco Ambrosiano in 1982. That scandal involved a secret Masonic lodge called P2 and ended with the bank's head, Roberto Calvi, being found hanging under Blackfriars Bridge in London.
See, now we're talking. A dead banker under a bridge named Blackfriars. That's not a scandal, that's the opening scene of a movie. I would absolutely watch.
And it's not just ancient history. More recent events show that financial misconduct is a recurring problem. The Vatican's own trial of the century, which started in 2021, revolves around a bungled €350 million investment in a luxury London property.
That trial gives modern believers a concrete hook. When they see headlines about hundreds of millions of euros being mismanaged, it makes the idea of a grander financial plot feel much more plausible.
If you can lose €350 million on one real estate deal, you're either the world's worst house flipper or you're playing a different game entirely.
And finally, Claim 6 is where the modern internet takes over. The theories have evolved to claim the Vatican is hiding alien skeletons, that they possess a functional time machine.
Or, based on a single thoroughly debunked email, that Jeffrey Epstein was secretly living there after his death.
Okay, hold on. We went from financial scandals to alien skeletons and Epstein's secret Vatican penthouse. That's not a rabbit hole. That's a whole different dimension.
All right, let's put a line in the sand. Time for what's real. First, the verdict on Pope John Paul's death. Officially, it was a heart attack. The Vatican's handling of it was, to put it mildly, suspicious.
But no direct evidence of foul play has ever been produced. The procedural errors created a permanent cloud, but without a body to exhume or a confession, the claim remains pure speculation.
They created the conspiracy theory themselves by being so weird about it. If you act like you're hiding something, everyone's going to assume you are.
Next, the verdict on Vatican control of the Illuminati. This is a false connection. It's a modern mashup of unrelated conspiracy narratives.
The historical record is clear. The Bavarian Illuminati was founded specifically to oppose the Church's power. They were enemies, not partners.
So this is like a cinematic universe crossover that makes no sense. Like Godzilla teaming up with his dentist. It just doesn't work.
Moving on, the third secret of Eftima. Verdict, unproven.
The Vatican released a document in 2000 that it attests is the full secret, interpreting it as a prophecy of the assassination attempt on Pope John Paul II. Believers, however, insist the real, world-ending secret is still locked away.
Which is a classic unfalsifiable claim. If you don't trust the source, no document they produce will ever be accepted as genuine. It becomes an argument about faith, not evidence.
It's the ultimate, I have a girlfriend, she just goes to another school in Canada. You can't prove it's not true, but come on.
Then we have the chronovisor, the supposed Vatican time machine. This one is almost certainly a hoax.
The main proof ever offered was a grainy photo of Christ. That photo was quickly exposed as a doctored image of a postcard, which itself was a photo of a wooden crucifix carved by a 20th century artist. The entire story originates from a single priest in the 1970s.
So the big reveal from your top secret time machine was a knockoff of a modern souvenir? That's just embarrassing. That's not a conspiracy. It's an Etsy scam.
But the Vatican bank theories are different. Verdict here, a strong kernel of truth.
While there is no proof of a global economic takeover, the claims of institutional misconduct are confirmed. The bank has a multi-decade, well-documented history of genuine scandals, like the Banco Ambrosiano collapse we mentioned earlier.
So they're not the secret masters of the global economy. They're just kind of bad at banking sometimes, or maybe too good at the shady parts of it. There is a difference.
As for the modern internet rumors, aliens in Epstein's secret penthouse. Verdict, false categorically.
Zero credible evidence supports any of it. These are recent fictions that circulate on social media, and you can see them fall apart in real time with a single search.
This is where the fan fiction writers really took the wheel. You can't just throw all your favorite villains into the same story. It gets messy, and the plot makes no sense.
So what's actually in the archives? Mostly mundane, but historically invaluable records. Things like King Henry VI's passionate love letters to Anne Boleyn, pleading for her to become his mistress, years before he broke with the church to marry her.
And the complete verbatim trial records for Galileo, when the church put him on trial for heresy for stating that the earth revolved around the sun.
My favorite is that they have Michelangelo's letters complaining that the Pope was late paying him for the Sistine Chapel. Even the greatest artist in history had to chase invoices. That's incredible.
So why does this all come back to the Vatican? Psychologically, it's a perfect target. For people who feel powerless, it's more comforting to believe one single powerful entity is secretly pulling all the strings than to accept that the world is chaotic, and nobody is truly at the wheel.
It creates a simple enemy. It's easier to fight a dragon than it is to fight a complex system of economic and social forces that have no single cause.
It's the comfort of knowing there is a final boss. It might be an evil, all-powerful final boss, but at least the game has a point.
And the black box effect of the archives is key. Because the collection is so vast, no one can ever definitively prove it doesn't contain a specific secret.
That uncertainty is the soil where any theory can grow. You can't disprove a negative, especially when the haystack is 53 miles long. It makes any claim unfalsifiable.
It's the universe's biggest, I'm not saying it's aliens, but file cabinet. There could be anything in there. And no one can ever look through the whole thing to say there isn't.
But nothing has been more effective at spreading these ideas than modern fiction. A book like The Da Vinci Code did more for Vatican conspiracies than 1,000 anonymous forum posts ever could.
Because it skillfully blurs the line between history and fantasy. It takes real places, real art, and real historical tensions, and weaves a fictional plot through them so seamlessly that the fiction starts to feel like a plausible hidden truth.
It's why I can't go to a museum anymore without tapping on the walls to check for secret passages. Dan Brown owes me a lot of security deposits.
Ultimately, these theories are appealing because they turn messy, random history into a satisfying puzzle. They offer a coherent story with a clear villain, a secret plot, and a hidden solution.
And it gives the believer a sense of empowerment. They're not just a passive observer. They're a detective who has uncovered a truth that no one else can see.
Look, if connecting dots and going down weird rabbit holes is your thing, and let's be honest, it is, we do this every week. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next weird thing we uncover.
The truth of the Vatican isn't a single global conspiracy. It's a 2,000-year-old human story of power, faith, corruption, and bureaucracy, all on a scale that's hard to comprehend.
Next week, we're tackling a mystery from the height of the Cold War. A US Navy destroyer that allegedly turned invisible, teleported, and fused its crew into the hull of the ship. We're reopening the file on the Philadelphia experiment.
Fused into the hull. Now that sounds like a bad day at the office. See you next time.